the country is feeling an economic crunch currently, and citizens are not spared. The COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown regulations have worsened the situation of most households. Financial and debt counselling company Debt Busters says it's seen an 18% increase in inquiries for counselling. It says many people are seeking help due to the after effects of the lockdown. More South Africans are living off credit cards. Let's talk more about this with Benai Sager, Chief Operating Officer at Debt Busters. Mr. Sager, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Well, the numbers speak for themselves. The situation indeed is dire for the majority of us in South Africa in terms of managing our debt and carrying a lot of debt.
Yeah, it's always a difficult topic, but thank you for having me on the show. It's what you say is true, and I think we were already going into the lockdowns and going into the COVID pandemic. We're already seeing the difficult situation for the South African consumer, and I'm afraid the last year and a half hasn't really helped the situation. And as you rightfully say, a lot of consumers are feeling, rightfully so, that their incomes, their net incomes, in terms of what they take home and what they have available, disposable income, hasn't grown. And it's true, as supported by our statistics. We also see that in real terms, people's income in general have gone backwards by about 20%. And what consumers are having to do is to supplement this lack of growth in their income. They're tapping more into their credit cards, they're tapping more into their overdraft facilities, and they're probably taking out more personal loans, those who can take out personal loans.
Yes, and I mean, the numbers, in my intro there, I spoke about an 18% increase in the second quarter of 2021 that you as Debt Busters have seen in terms of people coming to you asking for some counselling and how to manage it. But what are the other numbers saying? You've mentioned now that some people are borrowing more, and those who can access personal loans are doing so more and more.
Yeah, so some other numbers I can share with you. The first one you mentioned, what's in terms of incomes, people's real incomes are 21% lower than what they were in 2016, meaning in terms of in real terms, when you factor in inflation, that's how much less we're taking home. The debt levels are much higher than before. We've seen that someone who's earning 20,000 Rand or more generally has debt of about 150% of that, meaning, you know, it's not possible for them to really pay all of their debt within a year. And what we also see is people are having to spend about 60% of their take-home pay to service debt, those who come to us. None of these numbers sound good, but there's also some positive numbers with regards to debt counselling. So I want to share that with the listeners as well, because it's quite a unique opportunity for consumers who may be struggling. Our consumers, the number of consumers who are finishing the program successfully today is 7 times more than it was in 2016. So that's a massive growth, and I think that's great for the consumers.
Okay. Now, just very briefly, as we finish as we end, Benai, on that positive note, what are the key counselling tips you are giving to people who come to you? Very briefly.
Very briefly, budgeting, know all your expenses and account for them. Don't overstretch yourself. Pool your resources together with others and look for savings opportunities and sign up for, rewards programs. Those would be the top 5 tips, I would say.
Thank you very much. Benai Sager, Chief Operating Officer at Debt Busters. Now,